I had asked a coworker to get drinks with me only to check my phone and find that my bank account was nearly empty. With no other choice, I scanned the room and my eyes landed on a well-dressed man sitting alone in a booth. I walked over to him and leaned in close. "If you cover my tab, I can send you the money back later," I whispered. He gave me a look of mild amusement. "Excuse me, but do I know you?" he asked. I didn't hesitate, picking up the glass from his hand. "No, you don't. But you can ask your bodyguard over there how many times you've made my life difficult. A little assistance when I need it seems like a fair trade, don't you think?" The man, Julian, looked genuinely puzzled, but his bodyguard, Marcus, seemed flustered, even raising a hand to hide his expression. "Sir, she's telling the truth. Every time you've had too much to drink, you refuse to let anyone get near you except for this woman. I've had to call her on several occasions to help get you home. She was the only one who could." The friends seated around Julian suddenly became very interested. One of them leaned forward, his curiosity obvious. "Wait, for real? Julian is impossible when he's drunk? How could there be an exception?" Another friend chimed in. "I remember one time he was wasted and I tried to help him to his room. He twisted my arm in an instant." "Same thing happened to me," a third added. "Everyone knows Julian becomes a completely different person when he's drunk. Anyone who tries to get close ends up regretting it. When I was younger and foolish, I thought I could handle it. I got him drunk just to see what would happen and ended up with multiple fractures and a 2-month hospital stay. The doctor explained it's an extreme self-defense mechanism. He trusts no one in that state, so he lashes out instinctively." Someone else asked the question on everyone's mind. "So what makes her so special? Why is she the one person he trusts? I won't believe it until I see proof." I raised an eyebrow and took out my phone. "Fine, but first, someone needs to transfer me $50, then you'll get your show." To my surprise, a man immediately pulled out his phone and sent the money. My phone chimed with the confirmation. I pointed toward the bar. "Let me go pay my bill. Once you get him good and drunk, you know where to find me." The booth filled with laughter and teasing remarks. Everyone seemed to be enjoying the spectacle except for Julian. He remained quiet, his eyes fixed on me with a sharp, calculating look. I wasn't intimidated. I had seen him in his most vulnerable and embarrassing moments. I even had pictures of him hugging a toilet saved on my phone. They could see him as this sophisticated, elegant figure, but to me, that image was long gone. After I settled my bill, my coworker and I said our goodbyes. But I couldn't just leave. I had taken their money, and a deal was a deal. I turned back toward the booth. Julian's friends were still trying to get him to drink more, using games and dares, but he paid them no attention. Instead, he reached out, took my wrist, and pulled me from the booth. Without a word, he led me to his luxurious Maybach. The door shut behind us with a heavy thud. I rubbed my nose in annoyance. "I never asked you to only trust me when you're drunk. Do you have any idea how much trouble that is for me?" This entire strange situation had begun 6 months earlier. One night, after leaving work late, I saw a man lying on the sidewalk using a shared bicycle as a pillow. The sight was so absurd, I almost laughed. Being the social media addict that I am, I instinctively pulled out my phone to record it. But as I got closer, I stopped. He was incredibly handsome, even with his messy hair and the strong smell of alcohol. He was mumbling something about being thirsty. I took out my water bottle, poured some into the cap, and offered it to him. He drank 3 full caps without a second thought. I tried to rouse him. "Hey, you can't sleep in the middle of the road. Where's your phone? I'll call someone to come get you." He didn't answer, just let out a soft snore, completely unconscious. Left with no other option, I reached into his pants pocket to find his phone. I couldn't help but notice his long, lean legs. He looked like a model. How was this person even real? I finally located his phone, unlocked it with his face, and called the first contact. It was a video call. I angled the camera to show his face. "Hi, the owner of this phone has passed out on the street. If you're his friend, could you come pick him up?" The person on the other end gasped before I could even give them my location. "Get away from the young master immediately." I rolled my eyes, assuming they thought I was going to take advantage of him. "Relax," I said calmly. "I'm not interested in drunk men. I'll send you my location, but you should hurry. The voice on the phone became sharper, almost menacing. Don't ignore what I'm saying unless you want trouble. Stay away from him. What a weirdo, I thought, and hung up. I sat down next to the man to wait. Before long, he shifted and rested his head on my lap, sleeping peacefully under the streetlights. About 10 minutes later, the person from the phone arrived. The moment he saw us, his face turned pale, as if he'd seen a ghost. I swear I didn't do anything to him, I said, trying to explain myself. Before I could finish, the man on my lap moved again. He didn't just stay on my lap, he wrapped his arms around my waist as if I were a large stuffed animal. I tried to pry his arms off, but his grip was incredibly strong. I tugged on his ear. Hey, wake up. Your friend is here. Let go and go home. He just snored in reply. I looked at the man who was supposed to be his friend. Can you help me? I can't get him off. The man stood 5 meters away, unwilling to move closer. Frustrated, I yelled, Why are you just standing there? He replied calmly, Because I don't want to die. I was dumbfounded. What was that supposed to mean? He then explained that he wasn't a friend, but Julian's bodyguard, Marcus. Eventually, Marcus brought the car over, but parked it several meters away. You'll have to figure out how to get him into the car, he said. Are you kidding me? He's your boss, not mine. I was just trying to be a good person by calling you, and now you want me to do everything? The bodyguard wouldn't budge. He just stood there with his arms crossed, maintaining what he considered a safe distance. Furious, I channeled all my frustration into dragging the man, treating him like a heavy sack. Perhaps fearing I might actually injure Julian, the bodyguard finally took a hesitant step forward. But just as he got near, the man who had been sound asleep moments before suddenly sprang to life. With incredible speed and precision, Julian pulled a Swiss Army knife from his belt. He used one arm to shield me while lunging at the bodyguard like a trained soldier. His movements were swift, calculated, and terrifying. If the bodyguard hadn't backed away in time, someone would have ended up in the emergency room. I stood there, completely frozen, my mind racing to comprehend what had just happened. The bodyguard retreated to his original spot, looking sheepish. Now you understand why I stayed back, he said. When Julian gets drunk, no one can get near him. He becomes dangerous. My hand instinctively went to my neck. Should I run? But instead of attacking again, Julian calmly put the knife back in his belt, leaned against me, and fell back asleep with his head on my shoulder. I was too shocked to speak. The bodyguard looked equally bewildered. You're the only person I've ever seen get that close to him when he's drunk. Are you blind? I snapped. He's the one clinging to me. Tears started to well up in my eyes. What am I supposed to do now? I asked, feeling helpless. He shrugged. It looks like you'll have to help get him into the car and drive him home. Do you know how to drive? Sort of, I muttered, not bothering to hide my reluctance. But are you two playing some kind of joke on me? Why am I the only one who can get near him? What about his family? The bodyguard shook his head. His parents passed away years ago. He only has his grandfather, but even he can't approach Julian when he's like this. This was becoming more unbelievable by the minute. Still, with a mixture of resolve and desperation, I managed to get the 6'1" man into the car and drive him to his home. Later that night, the bodyguard added me on WhatsApp. You might be useful again someday, he wrote. Don't even think about it, I shot back. The next moment, he transferred $500 to my account. Suddenly, I was all smiles. Oh, no problem at all. Call me anytime. Let's keep the rate consistent, okay? A couple of weeks later, one evening, the bodyguard sent me another $500 along with a message. Miss Clara, I need your help urgently. I've sent you the location. Following the map, I arrived at the most exclusive club in the city. I pushed open the door to a private room and found several prominent figures, people I had only ever seen on television, passed out on the floor. Soon, paramedics arrived and started carrying them out. Once the room was cleared, only Julian remained, sitting in a corner with a Swiss Army knife in his hand. His eyes were bloodshot, and his whole body radiated a dangerous energy. Honestly, just looking at him made my knees weak. I quickly refunded the money to the bodyguard. Nope, I'm not doing this one. In response, he transferred $5,000. Got it, I said. You need a higher rate, right? That wasn't exactly what I meant, but when he offered $50,000, How could I refuse? I was just an ordinary working woman. A temptation like that was rare. Taking a deep breath, I cautiously approached Julian and gently tapped him on the shoulder. In a soft voice, I whispered, "Please don't kill me. Put the knife down." "Okay." To my amazement, he actually listened. Blinking through his drunken state, he looked at me for a long moment before slowly putting the knife away. Then, without any warning, he stumbled forward and collapsed into my arms. "Oh, come on," I groaned. He was so heavy that I lost my balance, and we both fell to the floor. Luckily, just before we hit the ground, he managed to twist his body, breaking my fall with his own. I landed directly on top of him. Outside the car, the bodyguard was gesturing animatedly, showing Julian something on his phone. My curiosity got the better of me. I cracked open the window just enough to hear parts of their conversation. "That's the situation, Julian. I didn't mean to hide it from you," the bodyguard was saying. "I just haven't figured out what connection you might have with Miss Clara from the past. Even when you're completely unconscious, with your guard totally down, you still instinctively trust her. I was going to report everything once I had a clearer picture." A little while later, Julian opened the car door and got in. I quickly buried my face in my phone, pretending I hadn't been listening. To be honest, over the past few months, I had thought about it 100 times, trying to figure out if I had ever met Julian before. But no matter how hard I tried, I came up empty. He was a golden boy from a wealthy New York family, heir to a massive fortune. And me? I was just a regular girl who had moved to the city after college, trying to make a living. The idea that we had some mysterious, profound connection seemed more like something from a novel than real life. Seeing Julian's annoyed expression, I suddenly felt the need to make a quick exit. "Well, if there's nothing else, I should be going now. Bye. No need to see me out." I reached for the door handle, but Julian was quicker. He grabbed my arm. "You're staying with me until we figure this out." "Won't your girlfriend mind?" I asked. "I don't have—" he started, then corrected himself. "She's overseas." "Oh, I see. A long-distance relationship. Classic." Then a strange thought occurred to me. Wait, do I look like her? Could it be that I remind you of this girlfriend of yours? Maybe one time when you were drunk, you mistook me for her. Is that why you're keeping me around? That would make a lot of sense. I mean, what other explanation is there for how our paths crossed? If that's the case, I'm actually relieved. Julian's expression darkened even more. "Shut up. You don't look like her." Then, after a pause, he added, "And she can't get close to me either." "Excuse me. Are you saying even your beloved girlfriend can't approach you when you're drunk? Then what kind of relationship is that? It really sounds like your heart isn't truly in it." His face contorted with frustration. "Why do you talk so much?" I shrugged. "My mom ate too many pistachios when she was pregnant with me." Marcus, the bodyguard, sitting in the front seat, burst out laughing. Julian, however, was completely stone-faced. He turned to Marcus. "Transfer money to her. Tell her to shut up." A moment later, my phone chimed. $10,000. Well, I immediately zipped my lips. Customer satisfaction is the foundation of professional service, after all. But moving into his mansion? Absolutely not. When the car pulled into the grand driveway, I crossed my arms firmly. I don't do sleepovers, not even for extra pay. We young women have our standards, you know. Julian got out of the car and gave me a look full of disdain. "Don't flatter yourself. You'll stay in the guest room, as a maid. From now on, you're responsible for taking care of me when I'm drunk." And just like that, I found myself involuntarily relocated to the CEO's mansion. I had no choice in the matter. Julian, the domineering alcoholic, had made me his personal drunk sitter. If it weren't for the daily $10,000 transfers, I would have walked out without a second thought. Every single day I prayed for his girlfriend to come back from wherever she was. Maybe then I would finally be free. After all, what woman would tolerate her boyfriend keeping a maid as attractive as me in his house? Rumors began to circulate. People whispered that Julian had hidden a mistress away in his gilded cage, a woman he had never shown such favor to before. They said that every time he got drunk, he would call for her to come and pick him up. They made it sound as if I meant something special to Julian. God knows I was just exhausted, spending my days as a corporate drone and my nights cleaning up after a demanding, impossible to please CEO. Just as my patience was wearing thin and my resentment had peaked, his girlfriend finally returned from overseas. She rushed into the mansion only to find me lounging on the living room sofa, casually eating expensive imported fruit. Her reaction was priceless. I sat there, my legs crossed elegantly, fully expecting her to glare at me and demand I leave. That's what I had prepared myself for. But instead, she froze as if she'd seen a ghost. She stumbled backward, bumping right into Julian, who was walking over with his usual cold, unreadable expression. Her face turned pale. She stammered, "Julian, who is she?" Julian narrowed his eyes and looked down at her. "Why do you look so nervous? Is there something on your conscience?" "No, nothing. I just got off a flight that was over 10 hours. I think I'm just a little jet lagged." He remained silent for a moment before finally saying, "Marcus will take you home to rest." "Why, yeah, okay." And just like that, Sophia turned and fled in a panic, completely deflating my expectations. As she reached the door, she suddenly turned around as if remembering something important. "Julian," she called out, "Grandpa said we need to start planning our wedding. We can't delay any longer." Julian gave no reply, his tall frame blocking her from my view. I sat there silently, wishing I could lean around him, grab her by the shoulders, and shake some sense into her. "Girl, get a grip. You're the fiancé. Channel your inner main character and kick me out already." Instead, Julian grabbed the back of my collar like I was a kitten, lifted me off the sofa, and pushed me into a car. I groaned. "Now what? Where are we going?" "To a party," he said. "There's a social event tonight. I'll probably be drinking." I rolled my eyes. I had had enough of babysitting him. "Can you drink less? Don't you know alcohol is bad for your health?" "You're worried about me? That's funny," he replied dryly. "I'm worried about myself. Can you please just get some help for your issues? Or trust someone else for once?" Julian ignored me and tossed a thick catalog into my lap. "Stop complaining. Pick one." I opened it and gasped. Inside were pages of glamorous evening gowns, the kind you only saw on red carpets. Each one was more stunning than the last. I could practically see stars in my eyes, but then I shut the catalog with a snap. Oh, my generous capitalist boss, are these even meant for someone like me? "You're wearing one tonight," he said plainly. "Pick one." "Can I pick two?" I asked, flipping through the pages again. What if someone spills red wine on me at the party? Actually, 3 would be safer. Julian shot me a disapproving look. "Relax. No one would dare lay a finger on my woman." "Correction," I muttered. "I'm just the maid who serves drunk rich people." His words turned out to be completely meaningless. He said no one would dare mess with me, but not long into the party, I ended up with red wine all over my face. It serves me right for talking so much. No matter what I say, it always seems to come true. But I'm not the type to just take something like that. I grabbed that woman's hair without a second thought and held on tightly. My life motto? Let go of dignity and embrace the chaos. When in doubt, go wild. I didn't care about appearances, especially not in front of these so-called elites. I had no aspirations of marrying into their exclusive circles. I was just a worker doing a job. After being tethered to Julian's side for 3 months, I was a ticking time bomb, ready to explode. Whoever got in my way was just unlucky. By the time Julian arrived, I was already on top of that noblewoman, my fists tangled in her hair. To be fair, she had a good grip on mine, too. I made a mental note to shave my head the next day. There was no way I was going to leave the same vulnerability exposed twice. Worried Julian would yell at me, I blurted out the truth before he could speak. "She poured red wine on my dress. You said no one could bully me. This is the first time I've ever worn something so beautiful, and I only had one." Julian said, "There are 2 more dresses in the car." "Really? Really?" I lit up. "Take me to see them. What if they're not as pretty as this one?" I asked, still clutching the dress I liked. "I'll buy you everything in the catalog," he said. Now that sounded better. My anger began to subside. Tell her to let go first, then I'll let go, I added, pointing at the girl clinging to me. Julian narrowed his eyes at her and said firmly, "Let go." She immediately burst into tears. "Brother, I'm your sister." Wait, what? I had been fighting with Julian's cousin. Oh no, I was done for. I instantly let go, jumped back, and quickly hid behind Julian, peeking out from behind his shoulder with a pleading look. "I surrender. Please have mercy." Julian roughly ruffled my messy hair. "Just a worthless cousin. Don't worry about her." A cousin and worthless? Then it's fine. Who doesn't have a few annoying relatives? I stood up straight and lifted my chin. She started it. I was only defending myself. Grabbing Julian's arm, I tugged him forward. "Come on, let's go see the other two dresses you promised. But I'm warning you, if you're lying, I'll let you embarrass yourself by drunkenly stripping in public, and I won't even bother to drag you home." I glanced at him sideways. "But seriously, what's wrong with your cousin? She poured wine on me for no reason. She even said I'm just some nobody freeloading at your place with no self-respect. I do have a title, you know." "So why can't I live in your house?" I added as I pulled him along. Julian stayed quiet, listening to me ramble. Then he suddenly asked, "What is your title?" "Your maid," I answered without hesitation. Julian stopped, pulled his arm away with a look of disbelief, and let out a soft laugh. "You seem oddly proud of that." "Of course I am. We working-class folks earn our money honestly. We don't steal and we don't cheat. Why should we feel ashamed?" He chuckled, shaking his head, then led me to his sleek black Maybach. Opening the trunk, he revealed two more stunning evening gowns. My mood lifted instantly, and I smiled brightly. "Wow, so even you didn't trust your own words. You brought backups even though you claimed no one would dare touch me." Julian's expression darkened. "If you don't want the dresses, feel free to keep running your mouth." I wasn't about to let him off that easily. Thinking about all the frustration I had dealt with today, I rolled my eyes at him. "You couldn't even protect me, and now you want to stop me from complaining?" As a boss, if you can't even protect your own employee, how can you expect anyone to stay loyal to you? Julian paused, the weight of my words sinking in. His tone shifted, calmer, more sincere. "All right, from now on, I will protect you. I promise." But I had heard Julian's promises before. I would be a fool to believe them now. Later that evening, I changed into one of the new gowns, this one even more breathtaking than the last, and was just heading back toward the ballroom when I was told that Julian's grandfather wanted to see me. Of course, Julian was nowhere to be found. Someone had stopped him outside, and he had no time to come with me. I was taken into a quiet, private lounge where, to my dismay, Julian's cousin was already waiting. She wasted no time. "Grandfather!" she cried. "It's her, that shameless mistress. Who knows what kind of spell she cast on my cousin? He's supposed to marry Sophia, but she's clinging to him and refuses to leave." I marched up to her and slapped her hard across the face. "Call me a mistress one more time, I dare you." The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the room, and she stood there stunned. "You hit me! I'll kill you!" she shrieked. "Let's see who wins," I snapped. "I've never lost a fight in my life." At that moment, the old man's cane struck the floor with a heavy thud. "Enough. Everyone, stop this nonsense." He turned to her. "Chloe, leave us." Chloe gave me a look full of venom. "You just wait. I'll make you regret this." "Bring it on," I replied, rolling up my sleeves. "A fortune teller once told me I'm tough as nails. Losing is fine, but not my dignity." I plopped down across from the old man, not holding back at all. He studied me. "I heard that when Julian is drunk, you're the only one who can approach him." "That's right. He hired me specifically to take care of him when he gets drunk. My job is to make sure he gets home safely. I'm not a mistress or anything else people like her want to say." "Do you know why my grandson acts that way when he's drunk?" "I assume it's some kind of PTSD. And do you know what caused it?" I folded my arms. "How would I know something like that? If you have something to say, just get to the point. I'm all brains and no filter, so don't expect too much." The old man had been talking for nearly an hour, telling a long, winding story. He still wasn't finished when Marcus, the bodyguard, burst in, looking frantic. Miss Clara, Julian is drunk again and asking for you nonstop. I immediately stood up and nodded to the old man in farewell, but before walking out, I paused and turned back to him. I get it now, I said quietly. You're trying to tell me that Julian went through something devastating as a child. He was betrayed by someone he trusted, and that betrayal led to the death of his parents. Since then, he's been unable to trust anyone. I took a breath and continued. But there was one girl who never left his side, even in his darkest days. She never turned her back on him, not once. She even risked her life to protect him. That girl is Sophia, the one he's supposed to marry. So, you want me to step aside before the wedding, right? I gave a small, bitter smile. Understood. I'll disappear. Just help me leave, and I promise tonight will be the last time I drag that drunk Julian home. After leaving the study, Marcus stared at me as if he had a stomachache. Miss Clara, are you really going? Yep, I said without hesitation. 3 months of work, and I've made nearly 100 grand. That's enough to buy a small house back home and maybe adopt a dog. I'm done competing in this big city rat race. Don't tell Julian. I don't want to be stuck to him for the rest of my life like some babysitter. Handling a drunk is already tiring, but then I have to deal with his brainless cousin calling me a homewrecker. No thanks. And besides, his girlfriend is back in the country and ready to marry him. It would be inappropriate for me to stay. Marcus muttered under his breath. Actually, Julian doesn't like Sophia. It's the old man pushing the marriage. Not my problem, I said, turning away. Back in the banquet hall, I found Julian in the middle of a drinking contest. His friends spotted me and immediately began teasing. So, it's her, huh? The girl who can actually get near Julian when he's drunk. Let's find out if the legend is true tonight. Let's get him drunk. I walked over and sat beside Julian, muttering under my breath. Could you please drink a little less? One of his friends leaned over. No way. Do you know who Julian is drinking against tonight? Dr. Evans, the country's top hypnotherapist. I raised an eyebrow. And why is Julian trying to outdrink a hypnotherapist? He wants Dr. Evans to hypnotize him and help him recover a memory from his childhood. Something terrible happened to him, but the memory is blurry. He's avoided it for years, but now he wants to face it. The problem is, no hypnotherapist has been able to help, except maybe Dr. Evans. And Dr. Evans agreed only if Julian could outdrink him. Let me guess, I said. You all planned this with Dr. Evans just to see if I'm really the only one who can handle Julian when he's drunk, right? Don't deny it. You all smell like schemers. The group burst into laughter and gave me a thumbs up. One of them said, so what if you figured it out? Last time I sent you $500 and you still owe us a performance. Pay up. I threw my hands in the air. Fine, fine. I'm just a hard-working tractor, pushing, pulling, dragging with all my strength just to get Julian home. What a glamorous life. Complaining is pointless at this stage. All that's left are tears. I raided the buffet table, stuffed myself, and returned to Julian's side. I stood exactly 5 meters away, close enough to act, but not so close that even a mosquito dared to join me. Everyone was watching, waiting for me to work my so-called magic. Who won? I asked. Someone answered, Dr. Evans is out cold. Julian barely outdrank him, but now he's totally wasted. Time for your show. All right, let's settle this debt, I said, and walked straight over to Julian. He was slouched in an armchair, pressing his temple with one hand. His cheeks and even his neck were flushed from the alcohol. Without hesitation, I jabbed his forehead. Get up! Time to go home. Dragging Julian along like I was walking a dog, I pulled his arm and started moving. When Julian was drunk but not completely blacked out, he always acted this way, docile, letting me lead him with no resistance. Everyone stared in disbelief. Am I seeing things? Is Julian actually cooperating? He can't be that drunk. No way. Drunk Julian never behaves like this. I don't believe it. I need to test it myself. Maybe I can get close to Julian, too. And at that exact moment, a blood-curdling scream pierced the banquet hall. Ah, Julian, I'm sorry. Please don't kill me. Clara, save me. That desperate cry came just moments after someone, clearly too brave for their own good, stepped up to confront Julian, refusing to believe the rumors about his temper. It ended exactly as you would expect, with a Swiss Army knife pressed to their throat, just a hair's breadth from drawing blood. Without thinking, I rushed forward and threw my arms around the out-of-control man, holding him tightly. I patted his back gently, speaking softly like I was trying to soothe a wild animal. Don't hurt anyone, okay? Be good. Put the knife down, Julian. If you don't put it down right now, I'm going to get angry. Almost instantly, Julian lowered the blade and slipped the knife back into its holster. He swayed on his feet, his tall frame unsteady, cheeks flushed with alcohol. When he looked down at me, there was something in his eyes, a vulnerability, a silent plea that made my heart ache. Around us, gasps and whispers filled the air. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? What is even happening right now? Seriously, just get married already. Then came an annoyed shout from Julian's cousin, Chloe. Have you all lost your minds? Stop shipping them. My brother is supposed to be with Sophia. But the crowd paid her no attention. Not listening, someone sang. Whether you believe in love or not, the body never lies. You don't get it. This kind of love. This is written into his bones. Under the weight of everyone's stares, I dragged the obedient, papa-like Julian out of the banquet hall. Driving him home alone, my mood was complicated, stormy even. He had already dozed off in the passenger seat, his handsome face practically glowing in the dim light. Even in sleep, he was dangerously attractive, like a walking trap for the heart. But was I even allowed to think that? I remembered what his grandfather had told me, and my nose tingled with the threat of tears. For all his arrogance, Julian was also pitiful in a way, so deeply wounded. And when I left, because I had to leave, who would take care of him? Would he end up passed out on another sidewalk using a public bike rack as a pillow? Stop it, Clara. Get a grip. Tonight's job had to be my last. If I kept this up, I was afraid I would fall for him too. After all, who could resist a cold, bossy CEO who turned into a needy puppy the moment he got drunk? But Sophia, his so-called girlfriend, had returned. I had no intention of becoming the other woman. When we arrived at the villa, I yanked Julian out of the car. He leaned on me heavily, his head resting against my shoulder as he mumbled about feeling sick. Serves you right, I muttered. No one told you to drink so much. In a slurred voice, he whispered, I just wanted to remember. Remember what? I asked, half exasperated. That nightmare you tried to forget. Aren't you afraid it'll hurt even more? He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I want to marry you. I blinked. What did you just say? I must have misheard. I had to be imagining things. But then he wrapped his arms around me again, buried his head in my neck and whispered, You smell so good. I remember this scent. I won't forget. I dragged him into the house, rolling my eyes at the ridiculous man clinging to me. Thanks. Next time, call me scented healing balm? He continued mumbling, Why haven't you been around? I never forgot. Are you trying to play reincarnation games with me? I didn't even know you before this, I muttered. After a huge struggle, I finally got him into the bedroom and pushed him onto the bed. But he pulled me down with him, and we both tumbled onto the mattress. Get off me, I shouted, trying to wriggle free. I won't, he said, completely drunk, holding me tightly like a koala. He buried his face in my neck and nuzzled closer. His body was burning with heat, and his breath was hot against my skin. Julian, calm down. Look at me. I'm just the maid tonight, not your long-lost moon goddess, got it? You're not a maid, he murmured. Fine, I'm your mom. Be a good boy and call me mom, okay? Clara, he whispered. I remember your name. And then, out of nowhere, he kissed me. My brain short-circuited. What kind of scene was this? Julian, let me go, you jerk. Give me back my first kiss. I struggled, but he wouldn't budge. No matter how hard I pushed, he clung to me like Velcro. He had officially crossed the line into workplace harassment. Julian's grandfather had said someone would come pick me up tonight. They were waiting downstairs, but I never made it out. Instead, Chloe and Sophia barged into the room. They caught us in a compromising position. Chloe screamed at the top of her lungs, calling me every name she could think of before lunging at me. But Julian, drunk and fiercely protective, grabbed her by the throat. I panicked. He was going to choke her. Sophia and I had to work together to pry his hand off. "Do you want to go to jail? Let her go!" I yelled. Chloe, now terrified, backed away as Sophia stood in the doorway. But not before Chloe threw a final insult my way. "You homewrecker! And you still pretend you're not the other woman. Sophia, how can you put up with this?" Sophia looked at me calmly. "Miss Clara, you have 10 minutes to get yourself ready. We will be waiting for you in the living room." I wiped my swollen lips furiously, too angry to speak. For the first time, I had no words. The frustration burned inside me. I wanted nothing more than to kick that infuriating man straight into the Pacific Ocean. After splashing my face with cold water in the bathroom to calm myself down, I stepped out, only to find him already sound asleep on the bed. Annoyed, I yanked the blanket over him and muttered under my breath, "Julian, I'm leaving. From now on, we're strangers. Take care of yourself and stop drinking when I'm not around." He didn't stir. He was completely passed out, unaware of anything I said. That rough, stubborn man. Would he even notice I was gone tomorrow? Would he actually search for me? What am I even thinking? I'm just a nobody. How could I possibly leave any mark on someone like him? "Clara, get a grip. Stop daydreaming." I shook the thoughts away and began packing in the guest room. Only then did I realize just how much I had accumulated over the past 3 months. One suitcase barely made a dent. In the end, I had to drag 3 oversized bags into the living room. Sophia and Chloe were already waiting for me on the couch, ready to see me off. Sophia no longer looked as frail as when I first met her. She now sat with calm confidence and authority. "Miss Clara," she said coolly, "thank you for looking after Julian. He and I will be getting married soon. I had planned to invite you to the wedding, but Grandpa said something that made sense." She continued, "He said it's easy to grow used to luxury, but hard to go back to simplicity. He's worried you may pick up habits you can't afford, so it's better for you to leave early. It's for your own good. Everyone should understand their place in this world." I let out a small scoff. "Can I leave now, or do you want to keep feeding me more nonsense?" With that, I couldn't be bothered to respond further. I walked out with my luggage, head held high. Goodbye, so-called high society fantasy. If I ever heard about Julian again, it would probably be news of his wedding to Sophia. But months later, I learned Julian never married her. After I left, the entire city was turned upside down. At first, he only searched for me in the nearby area, but 2 months later, he completely lost control. He even showed up in my hometown, camped out at my house, and took over my bed. My mom called me in a whisper, half panicked, half confused. "Tell me the truth," she said. "Did you scam him out of a fortune? I've only ever seen men this relentless when they're chasing down a debt." "He's been staying here every day," she continued. "He keeps saying you can run, but you can't hide. Sweetheart, we're decent people. We can't afford to get mixed up in something immoral." I groaned. "Call the police." "I tried," she muttered, "but your dad won't let me. That young man is some kind of chess genius, and your father is hooked. They play together every night after work. Men are useless when it counts, your dad included. With New Year's coming up, how are you even going to come home? Be honest, Clara. Do you owe him money? Is this some kind of emotional debt?" What a mess. Truly a disaster. Why didn't you just fake your own death back then? A few days later, she called again. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "I think this young man might not be so bad after all. Maybe you two could talk. Running away forever isn't a real solution." Every alarm in my head went off. "Mom, seriously, what did he give you?" "Nothing, really. Don't lie to me. You and Dad have clearly been bribed. It's only been a few days and you're already sold out. I'm disappointed in both of you." I hung up and blocked her for a full month. No further discussion. Days passed without a single call. Then, one evening, I saw Julian's name trending online. His company was all over the news. The headlines were wild. Julian had taken control of the entire family business and stripped his grandfather of all authority. The media was filled with rumors of betrayal and power struggles among the city's elite. One article claimed that his grandfather and his chosen bride, Sophia, had tried to manipulate him, but once Julian regained his memory, he turned the tables and seized everything for himself. The article left out most of the details, only fueling the public's curiosity. I couldn't resist. I texted Marcus. "What happened? Tell me everything." When he didn't reply, I sent another message. "Hello, say something." Finally, he answered with just 2 words. "Call me." Of course, curiosity got the better of me, and before I knew it, I was on the phone with Marcus for an hour, soaking up all the juicy gossip. Then, suddenly, the door burst open. A tall, broad figure strode into the room. He was strikingly handsome and unmistakably furious. I screamed, "You made Marcus call me just to track my location." Julian walked straight over, scooped me into his arms like I weighed nothing, and carried me out. "Not bad," he said quietly, "but a little too late for running off without a word. You are now sentenced to stay by my side forever." And just like that, I was back in the city, confined to Julian's villa. He had officially declared that ice cream was off limits as punishment, apparently because it was winter. I didn't argue. Instead, I ordered an entire spread of hot pot ingredients to warm myself up. As I dipped a slice of marbled snowflake beef into the bubbling broth, I glanced at him and asked, "So, let me get this straight. You're saying Sophia and your grandfather tricked you? And the girl who actually stood by you during the crisis? The one who protected you? That wasn't Sophia, it was me? But I don't remember any of it. Are you absolutely sure you're not mistaken?" Julian rolled his eyes and replied without hesitation, "There is no mistake. After I beat Dr. Evans in that drinking contest, he put me through 2 months of intense hypnosis therapy. I remembered everything. I even spoke to your parents. 10 years ago, your family went on a vacation to Charleston. They told me you got lost during the trip, and they searched for you everywhere, desperate to find you. Eventually they did, but you had a high fever, and when you woke up, you couldn't remember what had happened." He looked at me seriously. "You should let Dr. Evans hypnotize you too." I quickly waved my hands in protest. "No way. If I forgot something, there's probably a reason for it. I'm not about to dig up painful memories on purpose." I paused. Though I do remember my mom mentioning something about me getting lost on a trip when I was little. She said it was a miracle I made it back. "Okay, let's say I really did save your life. What now?" I continued. "Are you planning to repay kindness with cruelty by locking me up and turning me into your full-time maid for life?" Without warning, Julian pulled me into his arms and sat me down on his lap. My cheeks flushed red as I squirmed, trying to push him away, but he held me tightly. "What are you doing? Stop it, don't be gross." He ignored my protests and stared at my lips. "Did you kiss me while I was drunk?" "What nonsense," I snapped. "You kissed me first." "How was it?" "Terrible," I said quickly, though my heart told a different story. I had replayed that moment in my mind more times than I cared to admit. Julian cupped my chin. "Then how about I give you something better?" "No, don't. This shameless man was at it again. Someone save me before I completely lose my willpower. I remembered how free I felt the night I left, but after I was gone, I realized I couldn't stop thinking about him. I tried to distract myself by traveling across the country, using the nearly $100,000 I had earned from him. I explored mountains, crossed rivers, wandered through vast grasslands, and stood by the sea as ocean breezes brushed against my skin. I had never been in love, but it felt exactly like going through a breakup. Later, my mom told me Julian had come to our house looking for me. To my surprise, a tiny part of me actually felt pleased by that. But I reminded myself that he was supposed to marry Sophia. I couldn't afford to dream. Then everything changed. Headlines exploded with news that Julian had refused to marry Sophia and had even argued with his grandfather over it. I couldn't help but feel a thrill. Shamelessly, I called Marcus, Julian's ever-present bodyguard, and asked if things between Julian and Sophia were really over. One wrong move, and I had already lost everything: my peace, my pride, and maybe even my heart. Just when I was about to fall completely, Marcus barged in. breaking the tension like a bucket of cold water. Julian, sorry to interrupt. She has arrived. I turned and saw Chloe walking in hesitantly. I quickly shoved Julian away, but he kept holding me close, wrapping his arms around me without loosening his grip. What are you so nervous about? He asked smoothly. It's not like we have anything to hide. Not everyone is as shameless as you, I shot back. Why did you call her here? To humiliate me? But to my surprise, Chloe didn't act like her usual self. Instead, she walked toward me, her eyes rimmed red from crying. Clara, I'm sorry, she said quietly. I shouldn't have insulted you. It was all my fault. Can you forgive me? I blinked. Was this really happening? Did the sun rise in the west today? I turned to Julian. Can I say no? Chloe's shoulders shook as fresh tears fell, but I wasn't the type to pity tears. Too bad, I said coolly. Call me heartless if you want, but no, I don't forgive her. Chloe broke down, sobbing harder. Sophia has been sent to Africa for 10 years to do charity work. I don't want to go. Clara, please forgive me. I'll be your loyal servant for the next 10 years if you just let me off the hook. I'm begging you. I raised an eyebrow. All right, let me hear you say it. She blinked. Say what? Woof, woof, woof. She hesitated, then actually did it. Woof, woof, woof. Wow, she really was adaptable. Fine, whatever, I muttered. I never hated her that much anyway. Every time she picked on me, I made sure to fight back right then and there. All right, deal. But remember, you're my servant for the next 10 years. You'll do whatever I say. Chloe lifted her head quickly, looking at me as if I were her savior. To this day, I still don't know her full name, but honestly, I never felt the need to ask. From now on, she was just my loyal servant. After she left, practically glowing with gratitude, Julian gave me a knowing smile. 10 years. That's quite the sentence. Feeling sorry for my cousin now? Julian always had a way of cutting straight to the point. We share the same bloodline, he said. If she's your servant, then what does that make me? Wait, did I just insult him by accident too? Julian seized the moment to push further. So, are you saying you'll let me be your loyal servant too? 10 years sounds too short. How about a lifetime? This man really had no shame when it came to delivering cheesy lines. And the worst part was, I was enjoying every second of it. Still, I refused to let it show. I kept my face neutral and scoffed, "Oh, I wouldn't dare." Suddenly, Julian's expression shifted. The playfulness faded, replaced by something quiet and serious. Be my queen, he said. I've never been in love before, but I want to learn. Is it too late? His gaze was steady, heartfelt, and so sincere that I found myself unable to joke anymore. I actually paused to think. The way he trusted me, letting only me near him when he was drunk. That meant something. It touched me more than I expected. I cleared my throat, feeling my heart race. Well, I suppose it's not impossible. I'll reluctantly give you a chance. But you have to promise me, drink less in the future. And if you do get drunk, I'll make you kneel on a washboard. Julian laughed softly, pulling me into his arms. All right. The next day, one of Julian's friends called me. Sister-in-law, quick, come to Starlight Bar. Julian is drunk again. What? Did this man treat his promises as empty words? I jumped into the Maserati Julian had bought for me and sped off to the bar. As I approached, I realized it was the same place where I had once desperately begged him for help. The world really did come full circle. Back then, he had flatly refused to get drunk in public, not wanting to show weakness in front of his friends. Was this his way of making up for it? I rolled up my sleeves and marched toward the entrance, ready to give him a piece of my mind. But before I even got inside, a group of people was already waiting for me. They stood in a neat row and shouted in unison, Sister-in-law is here. You're amazing. Please come in. I stopped in my tracks and looked at them. Suspicious. What are you all up to? This is way too much. One of them grinned. We would never dare plot against you. You're Julian's one and only. You have no idea how crazy he went when you left without a word. As your biggest fans, we were heartbroken. Just when we started shipping you two, you broke up. I rubbed my nose, still unsure. Something about this felt off. But Julian's group of friends had always been the most vocal about supporting us. Maybe they really did mean well. Curiosity and nerves pulling me forward, I stepped into the bar. To my surprise, the usual loud music and noise were gone. The space was quiet. Julian was sitting on a small stage near the bar, holding a guitar, gently strumming as he sang. He didn't look drunk at all. Suddenly, my heart tightened. Could this be a proposal? Oh no, I hadn't even put on makeup. I didn't wash my hair. I wanted to turn around and disappear, but then I heard him sing. Oh, baby, thank you for being the light, a fleeting brilliance in my world. In this vast sea of people, you are the one I cannot forget. On these drunken streets, you are my most beautiful encounter. It was an original song. His eyes locked onto mine through the crowd as he sang. Around us, people began to cheer and gently nudge me toward the stage. My face turned red, my ears burned, and I felt overwhelmed. Julian set down the guitar, picked up a microphone, and walked toward me. As he reached me, he dropped to one knee, his eyes holding mine, steady and full of emotion. He sang the final line. Oh, baby, my one and only girl I treasure, will you marry me? From his pocket, he pulled out a dazzling engagement ring. The crowd clapped to a steady rhythm, chanting, say yes, say yes. It was over the top, it was cheesy. It was everything I should have rolled my eyes at, but I couldn't stop the tears. I reached out my hand, letting him slide the ring onto my finger. Then he stood, cupped the back of my head, and kissed me deeply. In that moment, everything else faded. I felt like I was drifting into a dream. Somewhere in the haze of joy, a memory surfaced of a boy covered in blood, collapsing into my arms, asking for my name. I'm Clara, I had told him, like a clear day. I'll remember it, he had said. I won't forget.